Well, I'm about to show you the chart. I brought it down to the barn, the promised chart, just like there's the promised land. I've been promising you a chart. Well, you'll see it in the next video. But still a little bit more about verbs first. This is my 56th day, the first video. All the average student of foreign language ever needs to know about verbs, a bold claim. There are various kinds of verbs, and if you group verbs, there are various kinds of verbs, and if you group verbs by their behavior, well, there's a set of verbs in English that, at least in American grammar, we call them helping verbs. I think sometimes they're called auxiliaries. But you know, help is a German word, just like link, linking verbs, helping verbs. These are German words, and it's a little bit easier, I think, in this mass of Latin vocabulary that you run into when you study grammar. Well, anyway, helping verbs, what they do is help. They help main verbs, and I box these because these are concepts you need to know. They help main verbs to form tenses, various tenses, the compound tenses they're called, moods, forms, questions, and voices. QV. I'll show you just a little soon, in a couple days, I'll show you how these helping verbs work. But I'm going to start with tenses, and that'll probably be tomorrow. Anyway, the helping verbs in English, here they are. I'm not promising that I've got every single one, but those I think are the main ones. The 8 forms of the verb to be. Am, are, is, was, were, be, being, been. Those are those 8 forms. Let's start with them. They're very important. Have, has, had. Those are 3 forms of really the verb to have. Do, does, did. 3 forms of the verb to do. Shall, should, will, would. Very interesting development between shall and will over the history of the language back in Shakespeare's day. Well, in Much Ado About Nothing. At one point, Leonato's brothers said, he will and shall. So he will and shall be heard, I think. There was a difference at that time. It's not so easy to explain a difference now. Can and could, interesting, because there is no verb to can. Well, you can can fruit, but in English you have to say to be able to. But can, could, may, might, must, they seem to be related, and then ought to. Those are helping verbs. At some point I'll probably point out that here's a place where German is so friendly to an English speaker, because so many of these, here we run into the close relationship between German and English. You get into trying to say these same things in the Romance languages, Latin, for example, and so much of it is done with the endings, with the inflections. It's so different. All right, I think that's all I'm going to say at the moment. In the next video, I'll show you this chart that I have promised you. So it's coming real soon.